Yeah.
We are live.
Great. Welcome to Senate Appropriations. It's Friday, May 9th, and we are going to hear about H44. Ben, you want to start us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. For the record, Ben Novodrowski from the Office of Legislative Counsel. Before the committee is H44, an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to the laws governing impaired driving, which is a pretty apt description of the bill, to be quite honest. It makes a bunch of technical corrections to update language to reflect sort of the current practices. It updates some statutes to be federally compliant. Probably the most substantive change is the addition of sort of a compliance process for those who are subject to a warrant-based blood draw to assess, any alcohol or drugs in their systems. There's now a mandate to submit to the blood draw when there's a warrant, and then a criminal refusal penalty is created if they knowingly hinder the law enforcement's officer's execution of that warrant. So that's probably the most substantive change, but as far as this committee is concerned, probably the most, the issue most within your jurisdiction is the creation of a working group. It's called the Impaired Driving Processing Task Force. It's essentially established for two goals. One, to recommend approaches that minimize the duration for which impaired driving suspects are held roadside, and also simultaneously minimizing the paperwork that a law enforcement officer has to do as a result of that stop. So the task force is comprised of all presumably state employees, the chief judge of the Superior Court or designee, Defender General or designee, Commissioner of Public Safety or designee, Commissioner of Motor Vehicles or designee, the Executive Director of the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs or designee, and then two more, the President of the Vermont Sheriff's Association or designee, and to just spice it up a little bit, a representative from the Vermont Police Association. So 7 members total, and they're essentially, they're charged with looking into those two issues, sort of what the constitutional and statutory limitations are regarding implied consent. The concept of implied consent is sort of there's this bargain for exchange between drivers and the state, where the state gives you the privilege to drive on our roads, and in exchange you inherently consent to some intrusion on your privacy or investigatory things. So for instance, a roadside test is something that you can refuse, but you've impliedly consented to that. But one thing that it does not touch on, for instance, is the blood draw. That, since that's more invasive, you need a warrant, and that's not part of that implied consent analysis, if you will. So you have to look into that. The same constitutional and statutory requirements related to implied consent and how it affects that duration of the roadside stops. Methods to minimize any statutory requirements that keep them constitutionally compliant, and any other issues that the task force thinks is appropriate to assess. They'll issue a report due on November 15th of this year to both the House and Senate committees on judiciary with any recommendations for legislative action. They must meet before August 1st of this year or call their first meeting by that date. They select a chair, limited to meeting 6 times, and compensation and reimbursement. The real heart of the issue for this committee is that those who are not otherwise compensated or reimbursed for their attendance shall be entitled to compensation and reimbursement under the appropriate statute. But since they are all presumably state employees, not to steal my colleague James's thunder, it's probably a de minimis cost.
Senator Norris.
Quick question. It's a judiciary question, actually. I forgot to ask that the other day. I'll pull this up. In case of unconsciousness, does a warrant still need to be obtained for the blood draw?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the bases for the warrant is if they're unable to provide a breath sample. Now,
intrusion of the body, right? So.
Right, exactly. But you know, a practical consideration under, from the medical side is that even though you might have the warrant and everything from a law enforcement perspective, whether or not the doctor or medical provider will actually engage in a blood draw without getting some sort of consent from the person, that's a different story.
Thank you.
Any other questions for, Ben? Nope, okay, thank you. We'll have, I guess, James.
James Duffy, Joint Fiscal Office, and yeah, this is a quick one, more or less a one-liner. The study committee is really the only fiscal impact of relevance to the committee, to this committee. JFO estimates it would probably be about a $3,500 to $4,000 cost across all study commission members. The reason that's such a small range is it depends on, you know, whether people actually claim their expense reimbursements or per diems, which they don't always do, how much they actually travel for their vehicle mileage reimbursement. But the bottom line is it's expected to be de minimis in the overall context of the Department of Public Safety budget, which is where this $3,500 more or less would come from.
Senator, are you okay with the use of that word?
Yes.
It is trademark.
It's trademarked.
Oh, really?
I just caught a new one, though, marginal. I mean, I don't know where that comes
Oh,
from.
that's Martine.
That's what you-
Martine, okay. The minimalist I like, James, yeah.
Okay, great.
Great. Good, any questions? That was great. Liner is right, thank you. Bob, did you want to weigh in on this, or as a reporter, or?
No, I was just gonna start as just a lot of technical changes, most of it, is concentration around the implied consent as far as the difference between breath testing.
Yep.
And, the warrant with the blood and so on and so forth, and the 7 members of the, which I deem to be, such as James, it's gonna be de minimis. Hate to use that word. So no, I'm good with it, thank you.
Great, so I guess we need a motion.
So moved. How about that? I move that we act favorably upon page 44. And that Senator Norris report for us.
Voice.
2-in-1 motion.
Too far. Did you hear the part of the chair of A&R in the Senate is gonna be part of that committee?
Oh, I didn't hear about that. I mean, is it, so I'm reporting now, is that what it is? I
On the
see.
task force.
Oh, on the task force.
All right, I will call the roll. Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Baruch.
Yes.
Senator Lyons. Senator Westman. Senator Brennan, yes. Senator Perchlik. Okay, we'll do a 403.
Do you ever use the phrase de maximus?
I haven't seen it yet.
Senator Norris.
That'd be-
Close to
That'd be a bomb to drop on the floor.
The Maximus. Okay, there's one. Okay.
Heffernan has not gotten back to me coming in early. He's in room 11 if we want to just try to grab him. Brady's not available until 2 if you wanted him. And obviously James Duffy is already here. Who would you like to?
So there's no money. I don't know much about this bill, actually.
Why don't we hear from James and see if we can hear?
Yeah, James, you want? We'll get you out of the way.
Thanks, everyone.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
You do, Ben.
It'll stay dry out there.
James Duffy, Joint Fiscal Office. So I will mostly stay in my JFO lane, but I can give a little bit of background such that could fill in for our legislative council a little bit here. So what this bill essentially does, H 167, is establishes a new grant program within the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. This would be the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters Grant Program. And what this grant program would do is recurring, on an annual recurring basis, grant money to the Vermont Food Bank to distribute as sub-grants to their network of local food suppliers, other folks who they work with to both supply and distribute local Vermont goods in the food bank's distribution network. And this kind of fills in, my understanding is this fills in for what has in the past been an annual one-time appropriation to the food bank. In most fiscal year budgets, there is a level of appropriation from the legislature directly to Vermont Food Bank. And what this grant program would do in part is kind of regularize, routinize that delivery of funds to Vermont Food Bank. Now, as introduced originally by the House Committee on Agriculture, there was a recurring $2 million appropriation for the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters grant program. That was removed in House Appropriations, and the implementation of the program was made contingent on an appropriation in the FY26 big bill. And there is a $500,000 appropriation in the one-times to AAFM in the FY26 budget. That was passed by the Senate, and my understanding is the Committee of Confidence budget includes that $500,000 as well.
Can I ask, Mr. Chair, how does that compare with what we normally give them?
It varies, and I will say there's so first of all, in FY26, there are additional funds being given to the food bank as a one-time outside of the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters grant program. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I believe it's either another $500,000 or perhaps $1 million to Vermont Food Bank directly this year. I'm not quite sure. Thank you. And past years have, I think, varied based on the availability of funds, but I think on the scale of several $100,000 has been typical from having looked into it in the past.
So this is money that's already in the budget.
Yes, the $500,000 for this grant program is in that FY26 budget. It's the intent of this bill that this be a recurring appropriation each year, although that's obviously up to the discretion of future legislatures.
And it's one time now.
Yes, currently it's a one-time appropriation in the FY26 budget.
I mean, it seems moot in a way.
It does. We're just reviewing language that the money's already been set aside for in the big bill.
That's correct. Yeah, the implementation funds for this program are already in the FY26 big bill. This bill creates a standing authorization to do so again in the future. But as it's before you now, there are no appropriations attached.
And it looks like she's opposing feeding Vermont.
Yeah, that's what it is. No, I guess my question is, my question is really for Senator Heffernan. But, wondering about, besides just an allocation of money to Vermont Food Bank, I assume it's just a structure for distributing this money. Is that the content of the rest of the bill? Because it seems like the bulk of it would be just an allocation.
I will say, I think something that is unique about this bill, H167, is that it includes authorization for subgranting. So Vermont Food Bank would receive these funds from AAFM, and a permissible use would be for additional subgrants to partners within the Vermont Food Bank's distribution network, is my understanding of the bill, which might be different from past direct appropriations to the food bank, say for the purchase of foods for distribution by the food bank.
Right.
Then my question becomes, are the sub-grantees currently receiving money from the budget? And this is meant to put it under one.
I can't answer that question. I'm not sure.
Amy, do you want to identify yourself?
Yes, Amy Schollenberger, I represent the Vermont Food Bank. So first to answer Senator Watson's question, this is a program that the Vermont Food Bank has been running for years, and this would just formalize a partnership with the Agency of Agriculture so that it becomes a state program run by the Vermont Food Bank. So there's not really anything new, the new part, except for, sort of the formal relationship with the Agency of Agriculture. The way it works is the money's allocated through the agency to the food bank, and they use it for two things primarily. One is they do contracting with Vermont growers so that they can purchase large amounts of mostly produce, but also other things to distribute to the network as fresh local food, like to the food shelves across the state. They also provide sub-grants to their network partners so that, like the very small food shelves, sometimes will just purchase a CSA and then they can just provide that food to those who come to that local place. So that's what the sub-grant is. And the way the bill is structured, the food bank is responsible for reporting back to the legislature to reduce the burden on the agency staff.
Mhm.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? You good with that?
Yep, that's fine.
You feel the need to have Michael Grady come in at this point? I don't see the need.
I agree.
How about Heffernan? You got the answer you
No, I
needed?
think everything is right. I mean,
Great. So I'd entertain a motion at this point.
I move to pass, 167 favorably.
I will call the roll. Dual roll today.
Chair.
whoa.
Jeez. Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Baruth.
Yes.
Senator Lyons. Senator Westman. Senator Brennan. Yes. Senator Perchlik. Again, a 4-0. 3, killing it today. Recorder.
I assume it's gotta be somebody here. Oh, you got ag, don't you? Do you have ag?
No.
You have natural
Okay, I think it's
resources.
me, yep.
That's where they grow.
I'll do it, that's fine. Next most likely, that's fine.
Seems how you're on the task force, so.
Oh, that's right.
Or designate.
I'm a designee. I'm the
You
board
could designate
designee.
Bob.
I'm the reporter or designee, who is Senator